Do you think eBay and PayPal are better together or better apart?
I think they're better apart, which is really the view of, I think, almost the entire former executive team.
Except Reid
of
Hoffman.
PayPal. Yeah, Reid has always believed a little bit more in partnerships than the rest of the PayPal sort of mafia. But I think he would probably agree with the following point, which is when you have one big customer, which is really what eBay is, it tends to crowd out a lot of innovation. So there's a lot of product demands and product services that you have to allocate to that very large enterprise customer. And so PayPal over the last decade has missed all of the innovation in the Square worlds and the Stripe worlds, and that's going to continue as long as they're together. This is sort of the John Scully era at PayPal.
Bob, when you look at this also, what do you think?
Well, I think what needs to be done is a sensible analysis of the worst case, the best case, the most probable case of a split versus keeping them together. One thing we know is electronic payments is going to be a hot area. Consumers are, struggling with the security issue. They're just searching for a way to get out of the credit card mess, so to speak, that Target represents. As we've seen recently. But you need to look at that, and if the numbers say that in fact separating these companies provides the focus and provides the right PE ratio for what electronic payments will be and the right PE ratio for what retail auction businesses ought to be, then the numbers give us a good hint.
Sure. That's Icahn's notion is that
exactly
a higher growth business like PayPal will get a bigger multiple in the market. Exactly. But I wonder, from the board perspective, you're in town in part because you're on the board of Agilent, spun off from HP quite a while ago. One of the biggest, most successful tech spin-offs ever, I think. Well, how does a board make that kind of decision?
With guts. And there are a lot of boards with mentally old people or mentally, possessive people who don't like to see the size of their company reduced. Okay?
Do you think the eBay board is mentally old?
I'm not commenting on the eBay board. I'm just telling you that
Keith, what about you?
every board owes the shareholders that.
Yeah.
Well, I think the eBay board may have to consider this option seriously. I think completely divorced from the tactics of Icahn, which are ridiculous. I think substantively there's a really strong case to first rebrand the company PayPal. I think that would actually help just clarify the employees, their priorities, their focus, their innovation.
They've done that at some of the buildings already, where the buildings that used to have eBay signs have PayPal signs.
Completely drop the eBay name, and I think that would help a lot to start. And that's easy to do. You can do that tomorrow. Then substantively conduct the analysis of actually what are the economics and what's the return on capital, and how does it help you recruit by separating the two companies? And I think they would spur innovation.
What do you think of the tactics so far? I mean, Icahn's gotten very personal. eBay is fighting back. It's gotten nasty and quite different from Icahn's previous, sort of spars with companies like Apple and Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tactics are ridiculous, but I also wonder why eBay is spending so much time and effort responding. I mean, it's a little bit like the Shakespearean line of, like, lady doth protest too much. It's like, methinks. I would just be ignoring Icahn. He doesn't, I mean, eBay's performed well. John's, actually grown the company quite well. John Donahoe, the CEO, has done quite well. The market cap reflects that. It'd be very difficult for him to get any real traction, so I would just put him off on the side rather than continuing to spar.
There is the argument that an eBay free and alone out in the world may be gobbled up by a competitor like an Amazon or a Google that could do fundamental damage to eBay. I'm sorry, PayPal on its own could damage eBay. I mean, Bob, is that the kind of thing that should enter into this?
My response to that is, so what? If that's what the world wants, I mean, the shareholders are driving this thing. And if, in fact, they can create more value for shareholders by splitting it and potentially someone looking at one part of it and saying, oh, I'm going to acquire that, so be it. That happens all the time.
That's a good thing for society.
Let nature take its course.
But society is not the point. The shareholders value support. And if you destroy more value in eBay by freeing PayPal, you're ultimately destroying shareholder value.
That's what the analysis is for, to try and get a good handle on where these PE ratios will go and try and make a reasonable assessment of that. And I think all the shenanigans in terms of the quotes and the things you see in the newspaper are propaganda. They draw attention to the fact that there's an issue there. Carl Icahn mission is clear. Let's get this out in the open. This is his method for doing that.
How do you see this playing out?
I actually think that eBay will make some concessions, either bringing some PayPal blood back to the board. So David Sachs has pointed this out, that if you really wanted the energy of PayPal, you could there's some very talented folks like David or Peter or Elon or Reid or Roloff. Max Levchin, Jeremy Stoppelman have been extremely successful creating businesses from scratch and innovating.
Do any of them want to do that?
I don't know, but I don't think any of them have been asked.
Yeah, I wonder also when you look at this. I mean, there's been the issue that one of the issues Carl Icahn has raised is the appropriateness of Marc Andreessen being on the board and recusing himself in the case of the PayPal decision and so on. And I wonder, both of you, but Bob, let me ask you as a board member. I mean, the eBay guys make a very compelling argument that having someone like Marc Andreessen with his fingers so deep in so many things in Silicon Valley is good for the board. Is it problematic as well?
Yeah. I mean, you could make the other argument equally as well. Frankly, I don't see why he would remain on the board, to tell you the truth, given what appears to be the risk of a problem. And when you get to that phase, the right thing to do is to step back and say, there are other things to do where I can contribute. Yeah, they like his expertise. He's not the only human out there with that kind of talent.
Keith?
Well, Mark is a special talent, without a doubt. I mean, just follow him on Twitter and you get a feel for that. But it's complicated. You know, I until recently was serving on the board of two public companies, decided to resign from one. One of the reasons is that Yelp will be dominating all of local commerce, and it causes potential conflicts over the next 5 years in my own job, which is to find the next innovative local companies. I've stayed on the board of Zoom, which is a payments company, because it hasn't caused any potential conflicts yet. But my LPs expect me to be finding the next great investments, and if a public board service makes that more complicated, then I'd have to resign. But I think Mark is easily capable of making those trade-offs.